The grand chamber of the Galactic Council pulsed with an otherworldly ambience, its curved walls shimmering with holographic displays and intricate energy patterns. Delegates from hundreds of advanced civilizations filled the massive amphitheater, their various forms a testament to the universe's biological diversity. Crystalline beings that resembled living prisms stood alongside silicon-based life forms and gaseous entities contained in complex environmental suits. At the center of the chamber, Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood alone, representing humanity. Her dark blue diplomatic uniform stood in stark contrast to the elaborate, often ostentatious attire of the other delegates. The human representative appeared almost primitive compared to the technological marvels surrounding her, a fact not lost on the assembled alien races. Zornak representative, Caltrix stepped forward, its multi-jointed appendages moving with a fluid grace that suggested centuries of evolutionary refinement. The being's translucent skin revealed a complex network of bioluminescent organs, pulsing with an inner light that spoke of advanced biological engineering. When it spoke, the translation matrix converted its complex series of clicks and harmonic tones into human language. The United Galactic Council finds the human application for membership problematic. Caltrix began, its holographic projection casting a dismissive shadow over Elena. Your species demonstrates remarkable limitations. Your biological structure is fragile. Your technological development is rudimentary. Your planetary resources are minimal compared to established galactic civilizations. A ripple of quiet laughter spread through the chamber. Delegates from the Silicon Concordat and the Quantum Nexus exchanged knowing glances, their contempt barely concealed beneath layers of diplomatic protocol. Elena remained motionless, her posture betraying no hint of the frustration brewing beneath her calm exterior. She had spent years preparing for this moment, understanding the deeply hierarchical nature of galactic politics. The humans were the newest applicants, the most recent species to achieve faster-than-light travel, and consequently, the most scrutinized. Caltrix continued its evaluation, each word calculated to diminish human potential. Your medical capabilities are particularly laughable. We have reviewed your planetary health records. Your species suffers from countless genetic vulnerabilities. Cancer, autoimmune disorders, genetic mutations. You require complex technological interventions to survive conditions that would be mere inconveniences to more advanced races. Another wave of dismissive chittering passed through the chamber. Holographic displays began showing human medical data, statistical representations of human fragility, disease rates, and biological limitations. What the aliens did not understand was the context behind those numbers. They saw weakness where humans saw opportunity. Each challenge was a problem to be solved, each limitation a boundary to be pushed. Elena waited precisely 3 heartbeats after Caltrix finished speaking. The calculated pause was intentional, a diplomatic technique she had perfected during years of interstellar negotiations. When she spoke, her voice carried across the chamber with unexpected clarity. The Galactic Council appears to have misunderstood the fundamental nature of human potential, she said. Her words were measured, professional, carrying none of the defensive tone the aliens clearly expected. The holographic displays continued their damning presentation. Human mortality rates, genetic disorders, physical vulnerabilities. Yet Elena's stance remained confident, almost amused. What you perceive as weakness, she continued, we consider an opportunity for innovation. Caltrix's bioluminescent organs pulsed with what could only be interpreted as confusion. The alien had expected emotional pleading, perhaps desperate arguments. Instead, it faced a calm, almost clinical response. Unbeknownst to the Council, Elena carried with her a comprehensive data package. Buried within thousands of pages of scientific research were preliminary studies that hinted at humanity's true potential. Adaptive genetic therapies, breakthrough regenerative technologies, neuroplasticity research that suggested human brains could rewire themselves in ways no other known species could comprehend. The diplomatic hearing was merely the first step. Humanity's real strength had never been in its initial capabilities, but in its capacity for rapid, unprecedented evolution. As the laughter died down and the council prepared to render its judgment, Alina allowed herself the briefest hint of a smile. The universe was about to learn that appearances could be profoundly misleading. The trial of humanity had only just begun. The attack came without warning. Krultar raiders dropped from hyperspace like a plague of metallic locusts, their weapon systems designed for total planetary devastation. Epsilon 9 was supposed to be a secure human frontier colony, a testament to humanity's expanding reach into the galaxy. Now it was becoming a potential graveyard. Colony defense systems, cutting edge by human standards, but primitive by galactic metrics, struggled to mount an effective response. Massive energy weapons carved through protective shields like paper, reducing entire habitat complexes to smoldering ruins. The first wave of attack lasted less than 17 minutes, but the destruction was absolute. Dr. Marcus Chen watched from the underground emergency command center as holographic displays tracked the mounting devastation. Beside him, Chief Security Officer Samantha Rodriguez analyzed incoming sensor data, her fingers flying across holographic interfaces with practiced efficiency. Casualty projections, Marcus asked, his voice deliberately calm. Samantha's face was a mask of professional concentration. Initial estimates suggest 73% structural damage. Population survival projections are challenging. Challenging was a diplomatic term for catastrophic. Most species would have considered the colony already dead, a total loss to be abandoned and mourned. But humans were not most species. The Krultar raiders had made a fundamental miscalculation. They understood destruction but failed to comprehend human resilience. Where other civilizations might have collapsed, the people of Epsilon 9 began to adapt the moment the initial attack subsided. Emergency protocols activated automatically. Buried throughout the colony were pre-positioned survival catches, modular medical stations, compact fabrication units, and advanced environmental adaptation equipment. These weren't simple backup systems, but carefully engineered survival packages designed for total planetary reconstruction. Within hours of the attack, the first emergency shelters emerged from hidden underground complexes. Survivors began conducting rapid triage, using advanced medical nanotechnology to stabilize the wounded. Portable force field generators created protective bubbles around the most damaged sections of the colony, preventing further environmental contamination. Marcus watched as teams of colonists, doctors, engineers, technicians, and civilian volunteers worked with a coordinated precision that would have seemed impossible to outside observers. There was no panic, no chaos, just methodical, relentless problem-solving. "We've lost primary atmospheric processors in sectors 7 through 12, a young engineer reported, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the damage. Backup systems are online. We're implementing emergency oxygen generation protocols." The colony's medical team was particularly remarkable. Where other species might have been overwhelmed, they transformed the devastation into an opportunity for innovation. Portable nano-regeneration units worked overtime, healing wounds that would have been fatal on most other worlds. Genetic reconstruction algorithms identified and repaired cellular damage at unprecedented speeds. A group of children, survivors of the initial attack, watched as medical technicians used advanced holographic interfaces to guide nano-repair systems. What might have been a traumatic experience became a learning opportunity, a demonstration of human adaptability. Samantha approached Marcus with a comprehensive damage report. "We've lost 70% of our initial infrastructure," she said. "But our population survival rate is tracking at 92%. The medical team is performing miracles." Miracles was not an exaggeration. Human medical technology had reached a point where impossible was merely a temporary condition. Unbeknownst to the colonists, their survival was being monitored by galactic intelligence networks. The Zornak Confederacy had assumed the Krultar attack would result in total human extinction. Instead, they were witnessing something entirely unexpected. Outside the protective force fields, robotic reconstruction drones began their work. These were not simple repair machines, but highly adaptive systems that could reconfigure themselves based on real-time environmental data. Damaged structures were not just repaired but reimagined, incorporating lessons learned from the attack. Marcus reviewed the preliminary reconstruction plans. "We're not just rebuilding," he muttered to himself. "We're improving." By the end of the first week, Epsilon 9 looked different. Partially destroyed structures had been transformed into more resilient configurations. Damaged habitat modules were replaced with more advanced designs that incorporated lessons from the attack. The colony wasn't just surviving, it was evolving. The Kreltar had intended to deliver a message of human vulnerability. Instead, they had provided a demonstration of human potential. As night fell on the reconstructing colony, Marcus watched a group of children playing near a newly constructed medical center. Their laughter echoed through the reconstructed habitat, a sound of defiance against destruction. Epsilon 9 would not just survive, it would thrive. The medical research facility hummed with an intensity that bordered on controlled chaos. Dr. Helena Novak stood at the center of a complex web of holographic displays, her eyes tracking multiple simultaneous experiments. The nano-regenerative treatment was close to a breakthrough. She could feel it. Outside the facility's reinforced walls, a diplomatic transport descended in an emergency landing pattern. The Zornak delegation had suffered a catastrophic incident during their return journey from the Galactic Council meeting. Their lead diplomat, Ambassador Kellerex, was critically injured, a situation that would have been fatal for most species. Medical protocols dictated that alien species should be treated by their own specialized medical teams. But these were extraordinary circumstances, and the human medical team was about to demonstrate why. The transport's airlock hissed open, revealing a scene of desperate urgency. Zornak medical attendants surrounded a prone figure, its translucent biological structure flickering with failing bioluminescence. Advanced medical scanners typically used by the Zornak showed nothing but cascading system failures. To their medical technology, the ambassador was essentially dead. Dr. Novak approached the transport, her team of researchers following with a carefully prepared array of experimental medical equipment. The Zornak medical team looked at the humans with a mixture of desperation and barely concealed contempt. "Your species cannot possibly understand our biological complexity," the lead Zornak medical officer stated, his translator matrix conveying a tone of resigned hopelessness. Helena's response was measured. "We're here to help." The nano-regenerative treatment was unlike anything in galactic medical history. Unlike traditional medical interventions that treated symptoms, this approach was holistic and adaptive. Microscopic nanobots could read and interpret complex biological signatures, reconstructing damaged cellular structures with unprecedented precision. As the first nanobots were introduced to Ambassador Kellerex's failing biological system, something extraordinary began to happen. The Zornak medical team watched in stunned silence. Their most advanced scanning equipment struggled to comprehend the rapid cellular reconstruction. Damaged organs began to regenerate. Fractured cellular structures realigned. The ambassador's failing bioluminescent systems started to pulse with renewed energy. What made the human approach unique was its fundamental philosophy. Where most galactic medical technologies sought to repair or replace, human nano-regeneration aimed to understand and restore. Each nanobot was essentially a microscopic learning system, adapting in real time to the complex biological environment it encountered. Within hours, Ambassador Kellerex showed signs of not just recovery, but enhanced biological stability. The nanobots had not just repaired the damage, but had begun to optimize the ambassador's biological systems, identifying and correcting long-standing genetic inefficiencies. The Zornak medical team's initial skepticism transformed into a kind of scientific awe. Their most advanced medical technologies would have required weeks of intervention. The humans had accomplished the impossible in mere hours. Dr. Novak understood the deeper implications. This wasn't just a medical breakthrough, it was a diplomatic one. The human medical team wasn't just saving a life, They were challenging fundamental galactic perceptions about human capabilities. As Ambassador Kellerex regained consciousness, the first words spoken were not of gratitude, but of scientific curiosity. "How?" the ambassador asked, its bioluminescent organs pulsing with renewed vigor. Helena smiled. "We saw your biological challenge as an opportunity for innovation." News of the medical miracle spread quickly through galactic communication networks. The Zornak Confederacy's initial mockery of human medical capabilities began to transform into genuine scientific interest. Diplomatic channels were flooded with requests for more information about the nano-regenerative treatment. What the galaxy was beginning to understand was that human medical innovation was not about technological superiority, but about a fundamental approach to problem-solving. Where other species saw limitations, humans saw potential. Where others accepted biological constraints, humans saw them as challenges to be overcome. In the medical facility's observation room, Dr. Novak reviewed the treatment data. Each successful intervention was another piece of evidence. Humanity was not just catching up to galactic medical standards. They were redefining them. Ambassador Kellerex's recovery was more than a medical miracle. It was a statement. Humans were here, and they were ready to change everything. The Xenobiological Research Station orbited a neutron star, its complex sensor arrays constantly probing the boundaries of biological understanding. Dr. Julian Chen stood before a massive holographic display, watching genetic sequences dance and morph in real time. What the galaxy considered impossible was unfolding before his eyes. Humanity's genetic structure was nothing like the static, carefully engineered biological systems of other advanced civilizations. Where most species viewed their genetic code as a fixed blueprint, human DNA resembled a living, breathing algorithm of constant adaptation. The current experiment tracked human genetic responses to extreme environmental conditions. Most species required generations, sometimes millennia, to develop meaningful genetic adaptations. Humans could begin genetic restructuring within a single generation. A team of quantum nexus researchers observed from a secondary monitoring station, their crystalline forms shifting with what could only be described as scientific excitement. They had come to witness something unprecedented, a live study of human genetic plasticity. "Observe the epigenetic markers," Julian explained, his fingers tracing complex genetic pathways. Unlike other species, human genetic expression can modify almost instantaneously in response to environmental stimuli. The current test subjects were volunteers who had undergone controlled exposure to extreme radiation, low-gravity environments, and chemical compounds that would have been fatal to most known species. But humans were not most species. Within hours, genetic repair mechanisms began their work. But this was more than simple cellular recovery. The human genome was actively learning, restructuring itself to not just survive, but to thrive in conditions that should have been impossible. One test subject, a woman named Elena Rodriguez, no relation to the earlier diplomatic representative, showed particularly remarkable genetic adaptation. Her cellular structure had begun to develop radiation-resistant proteins that didn't just protect against current exposure, but seemed to be encoding protection for potential future generations. The quantum nexus researchers communicated through their complex harmonic language, their excitement barely contained. "Impossible," one transmission suggested. "Unprecedented," another countered. Julian understood the deeper implications. Human genetic flexibility was not a weakness, but the most sophisticated form of evolutionary strategy ever observed. Where other species engineered specific genetic traits, humans had developed an entire biological system designed for continuous adaptation. Blood samples showed extraordinary capabilities, immune responses that could be reconfigured in hours instead of generations, neurological pathways that could rewire themselves in response to new environmental challenges, cellular structures that could modify their fundamental composition to meet survival requirements. A holographic simulation showed the genetic differences. Most species appeared as rigid, carefully constructed geometric patterns. The human genetic sequence looked more like a living, breathing ecosystem, constantly in motion, constantly evolving. "We're not just surviving," Julian muttered to himself. "We're becoming." The quantum nexus researchers began to understand why humans had been so quickly advancing in galactic technologies. Their biological system was essentially a living research and development platform. Each challenge was an opportunity for genetic innovation. Another test subject demonstrated neural plasticity that defied previous scientific understanding. Exposure to complex mathematical challenges had triggered genetic expressions that enhanced cognitive processing. The human brain wasn't just learning. It was actively reconstructing itself to become more efficient. A communication came through from the Galactic Research Consortium. Initial reports were demanding explanations, clarifications, additional data. The human genetic research was challenging fundamental assumptions about biological development. Julian compiled a preliminary report. The key findings were both simple and revolutionary. Human biology was not a fixed state, but a continuous process of adaptation and improvement. As the research station continued its observations, the genetic sequences continued their dance. Each moment brought new revelations, new possibilities. The galaxy was watching, and what it saw was changing everything it thought it knew about biological potential. The human genome was not just a genetic code. It was a living algorithm of infinite possibility. And this was only the beginning. The pandemic struck without warning. A quantum-encoded virus that traversed interstellar communication networks with terrifying efficiency. Within weeks, 17 different galactic civilizations found themselves under biological siege, their most advanced medical technologies rendered utterly ineffective. Dr. Rebecca Walker stood in the Global Response Center, her eyes scanning multiple holographic displays showing the virus's catastrophic spread. Unlike previous global health challenges, this was an interstellar threat that respected no planetary boundaries, no species limitations. The virus was a marvel of destructive engineering. It could penetrate cellular defenses across multiple biological systems, adapting faster than any known medical countermeasure. The Zornak had lost entire planetary populations. The silicon concordats crystalline life forms were dissolving at the molecular level. Even the quantum nexus, with its advanced technological immunities, found its defensive systems compromised. Most galactic civilizations retreated into isolation, implementing quarantine protocols that essentially meant abandoning infected populations. Their medical approach was defensive, focused on preservation of the uninfected rather than salvation of the infected. Humans approached the problem differently. Within hours of the first global alert, research centers across Earth began collaborative efforts that defied traditional scientific boundaries. Medical researchers, computational experts, genetic engineers, and communication specialists formed integrated teams that worked with a synchronicity that bewildered external observers. "We're not just fighting a virus," Rebecca explained during an emergency galactic communication. "We're solving a complex systems problem." The human approach was holistic and adaptive. Where other civilizations saw the virus as an enemy to be destroyed, humans saw it as a complex system to be understood and ultimately transformed. Quantum computing centers worked alongside biological research facilities. Machine learning algorithms developed by teams in Tokyo, Sao Paulo, and Lagos communicated in real time with medical researchers in New Delhi, Moscow, and Cape Town. No single research center owned the solution. It was a truly global effort. Traditional medical boundaries dissolved. Researchers shared data instantaneously, their collaborative platforms breaking down the typical silos that hindered scientific progress in other civilizations. Open-source research platforms allowed for near-instantaneous global collaboration. The virus had a fundamental weakness: its rapid adaptation mechanism. Most species saw this as an insurmountable challenge. Humans recognized it as an opportunity for a revolutionary approach to viral management. Instead of trying to destroy the virus, human researchers began developing a comprehensive viral transformation protocol. The goal was not elimination, but negotiation, turning the destructive virus into a neutral or even beneficial biological entity. Breakthrough came from an unexpected collaboration. A team of genetic engineers working with computational biologists in a joint research center developed a novel approach. They created adaptive RNA sequences that could communicate with the virus's quantum-encoded genetic structure, essentially teaching it to modify its behavior. "We're not fighting the virus," Dr. Marcus Reyes explained during a global briefing. "We're having a conversation with it." The galactic medical community watched in stunned disbelief. Where they saw an uncontrollable threat, humans saw a complex communication problem. Within 6 weeks, the first planetary treatments began showing remarkable results. Infected populations didn't just survive, they began to recover with enhanced biological capabilities. The virus, instead of destroying cellular structures, was being transformed into a mechanism for genetic enhancement. The Zornak medical delegation, which had previously mocked human medical capabilities, now watched with a mixture of horror and fascination. Their most advanced medical technologies would have required centuries to develop such an approach. Collaborative platforms tracked the virus's transformation in real time. What had begun as a destructive quantum-encoded pathogen was being systematically reprogrammed into a potentially beneficial biological agent. By the time the global treatment protocols were fully implemented, 17 different galactic civilizations had not just survived the pandemic, they had been fundamentally transformed by it. The humans had done more than solve a medical crisis. They had demonstrated a revolutionary approach to complex systemic challenges. And the galaxy was beginning to pay attention. The Symbiosis Laboratory occupied a unique space between medical research and technological innovation. Dr. Olivia Chen walked between rows of experimental interfaces, each station representing a breakthrough in human technology integration that would redefine biological potential. Most galactic civilizations viewed technology and biology as separate domains. Humans saw them as a continuous, interactive ecosystem. The current experiment pushed the boundaries of what was considered possible. Nano-neural interfaces that didn't just connect with human biology, but actively communicated with it. These were not simple prosthetics or medical augmentations. They were living, adaptive systems that learned and grew alongside human biological structures. A young volunteer named Michael Santos sat in the primary testing chamber. Dozens of microscopic neural interfaces were carefully integrated into his nervous system, creating a network more complex than any artificial intelligence ever conceived. Initial neural mapping shows complete integration, a research assistant reported. The holographic displays tracked biological responses in real time, revealing something extraordinary. The nano-interfaces weren't just responding to Michael's nervous system. They were actively communicating with it. Where traditional technological augmentations created a one-way communication, these interfaces established a true dialogue between biological and technological systems. Michael could control complex technological systems with mere thought. But more importantly, the technological systems could provide sensory and cognitive feedback that expanded human perceptual capabilities. A quantum nexus research observer watched through a specialized quantum frequency viewing interface. Its crystalline structure pulsed with confusion and scientific fascination. Humans were not augmenting themselves with technology. They were creating a new form of hybrid existence. The interfaces could adapt to individual neurological patterns within minutes. They learned, grew, and evolved alongside human biological systems. A traditional technological augmentation would require months of calibration. These interfaces achieved full integration in less than an hour. "We're not just using technology," Dr. Chen explained during a global research briefing. "We're creating a new form of collaborative intelligence." Each interface was a marvel of adaptive engineering. They could redistribute neural load during high-stress situations, provide additional cognitive processing power, and even help heal neurological damage. They weren't external tools but extension of human biological potential. The most remarkable demonstration came unexpectedly. During a simulated high-stress scenario, Michael's neural interfaces began to predict and mitigate potential cognitive overwhelm before he was consciously aware of the approaching stress. It wasn't just technological prediction. It was a form of symbiotic anticipation that blurred the lines between biological instinct and technological intelligence. Galactic research teams watched in astonishment. Their technological augmentations were carefully controlled, rigidly designed. Human interfaces seemed to have a form of emergent intelligence that defied traditional technological understanding. The implications extended far beyond medical applications. These neural interfaces could revolutionize space exploration, providing humans with cognitive and sensory capabilities that would make long-term interstellar travel not just possible, but comfortable. A secondary experiment demonstrated the interface's healing capabilities. When Michael was exposed to mild radiation, the nano-neural network immediately began protective and regenerative processes. They didn't just shield against damage. They actively repaired and enhanced biological resilience. The Zornak medical delegation, which had previously dismissed human medical capabilities, now watched with growing respect. This was not simply technological augmentation. This was a new form of biological evolution. Dr. Chen's team had discovered something profound. Technology was not something humans used. It was something humans became. The interfaces continued their delicate dance of biological and technological communication. Each moment revealed new possibilities, new ways of understanding the relationship between consciousness, biology, and technology. Michael smiled. For the first time in human history, technology was not just a tool. It was a partner. The galaxy was watching, and what it saw would change everything. The medical frigate hung in the void of space, a beacon of hope amidst the devastation of an intergalactic conflict. Dr. Samuel Rodriguez moved between trauma units with a fluid grace that defied the chaos surrounding him. This was more than a medical mission. This was a demonstration of humanity's most profound capability. The conflict had been brutal. The Kreltar invasion had left a trail of wounded from multiple galactic civilizations. Most species would have prioritized their own. Humans saw something different, an opportunity to save life, regardless of origin. In the first trauma unit, a silicon-conquered crystalline soldier lay critically wounded. Its complex biological structure was fragmenting, cellular bonds breaking down under the stress of multiple weapons impacts. Traditional medical treatments would have been futile. The human medical team saw a complex biological puzzle waiting to be solved. Nano-regenerative systems began their work, each microscopic unit analyzing the crystalline soldier's unique biological structure. They didn't just repair. They adapted. Where other medical technologies would have failed, human innovation found a path to recovery. The second unit contained a Zornak warrior, its bioluminescent systems flickering like a dying star. Quantum-encoded medical algorithms worked in real time, deciphering the complex biological language of the alien physiology. What would have been considered impossible became a living miracle. "We're not just treating injuries," Dr. Rodriguez explained to his team. "We're having a conversation with biology itself." Each medical station told a similar story. Soldiers from species that had previously mocked or dismissed humanity now depended entirely on human medical capabilities. The irony was not lost on the medical team. A quantum nexus healing specialist observed the procedures, its complex crystalline structure pulsing with scientific fascination. Human medical approach defied every established galactic medical protocol. They didn't see species. They saw life. The medical frigate became a microcosm of a different kind of warfare. Here, the only battle was against death itself. Soldiers who moments ago had been fighting each other now lay side by side, their survival dependent on a shared human commitment to preservation. Most remarkable was the adaptive nature of the treatment. Each medical interface learned from previous interventions. The nano-regenerative systems weren't just repairing damage. They were building a comprehensive understanding of interspecies biological complexity. A communication came through from the Galactic Military Command. They demanded explanations, wanted to understand how a single medical team could achieve what entire specialized medical civilizations could not. Dr. Rodriguez's response was simple. "We saw their potential for survival, not their differences." The medical interfaces worked with a level of complexity that bordered on sentience. They didn't just analyze biological data. They interpreted it, found patterns, created solutions that traditional medical technologies would have considered impossible. In the third trauma unit, a soldier from a previously unknown species was brought in. Its biological structure was so alien that most medical systems would have declared treatment impossible. The human team saw an opportunity for understanding. Quantum-encoded medical algorithms began their work. They didn't just attempt to heal. They attempted to communicate with a biological system completely foreign to human experience. Hours passed. The frigate became a testament to human medical innovation. Soldiers from species that had been mortal enemies now shared a common experience of survival, all thanks to human medical intervention. The galactic communication networks began to light up. Reports of unprecedented medical success spread faster than the conflict itself. What had begun as a military engagement was transforming into something else entirely. The Zornak Medical Observer transmitted a message that would be repeated across multiple civilizations. Humans do not just heal. They transform. As the medical frigate continued its mission, something profound was happening. The boundaries between species were dissolving, replaced by a more fundamental understanding of life itself. Dr. Rodriguez looked across the medical bay. Soldiers from a dozen different civilizations breathed, lived, survived. This was more than a medical mission. This was a statement about the fundamental nature of existence. And the galaxy was listening. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council looked different this time. Where once it had been a place of mockery and dismissal, now it hummed with a profound sense of transformation. Representatives from every known galactic civilization gathered, their collective attention focused on a single podium. Dr. Helena Chen stood alone, much like the diplomatic representative had during that first fateful meeting. But everything had changed. Caltrix, the same Zornak representative who had once derided humanity, now approached with a posture that suggested something between reverence and scientific fascination. The holographic displays surrounding the chamber told a story of unprecedented achievement. Medical records from multiple civilizations documented humanity's impossible accomplishments. The pandemic that should have destroyed 17 different species had instead become a catalyst for biological enhancement. The intergalactic conflict that should have resulted in mass extinction had transformed into a demonstration of unprecedented medical capability. We were wrong. Caltrix began, its translator matrix conveying a tone of genuine humility. Fundamentally, catastrophically wrong about humanity. The chamber fell silent. Such an admission was unprecedented in galactic diplomatic history. Helena's presentation began not with words, but with a comprehensive data visualization. Holographic representations showed humanity's journey, from a species considered primitive and fragile to a civilization that had redefined the very understanding of biological potential. Each holographic projection told a story: the Epsilon 9 colony's reconstruction, the quantum viral transformation, the multi-species medical rescue, the neural technological symbiosis. Each moment was a testament to human innovation. We do not see limitations, Helena explained. We see opportunities. The quantum nexus representatives, their crystalline structures pulsing with complex harmonic communications, began to translate the presentation across multiple dimensional communication spectrums. What was happening was more than a diplomatic meeting. It was a fundamental reassessment of galactic understanding. Medical records showed how human approaches had not just saved lives, but had transformed entire biological paradigms. Where other civilizations saw fixed biological systems, humans demonstrated constant adaptation. Where others saw technological augmentation as an external tool, humans created true symbiosis. Caltrix presented the formal apology, not just from the Zornak Confederacy, but from a coalition of galactic civilizations. They requested not just membership, but partnership. Humanity was no longer to be considered a developing species, but a critical evolutionary catalyst. Your potential, the Zornak representative explained, is not in your current capabilities. It is in your approach to capability itself. Helena's presentation highlighted something profound. Humanity's strength was not in superior technology or biological perfection. It was in an approach to existence that saw every challenge as an opportunity for growth, every limitation as a boundary waiting to be pushed. The medical breakthroughs were just the beginning. Human research had demonstrated that biology was not a fixed state, but a continuous process of innovation. Technology was not a tool to be used, but a partner in evolution. Representatives from the Silicon Concordat shared preliminary research. Human approaches to neural technological integration were already being studied, adapted, transformed. What humans had demonstrated was not just a medical achievement, but a new way of understanding the relationship between consciousness, biology, and technological potential. As the presentation concluded, the chamber erupted not in the previous mockery, but in a complex harmonic resonance that translated across species as profound respect. Helena's final words captured the essence of the human approach. We are not defined by what we are. We are defined by what we can become. The Galactic Council vote was unanimous. Humanity would not just be admitted. They would be recognized as a critical evolutionary force. Outside the chamber, the universe seemed to pause. Something fundamental had changed. The galaxy had just realized that the species it once considered the weakest might actually be its most transformative. Humanity's trial was over. Its real journey was just beginning.